I'd like to call to order the September 4th meeting of the Nantucket School Committee.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Comments from the public?
Hi there, Kim Albertson, 25th year in preschool, 26 in the district. Happy first day, everybody. It was really pleasant. Thanks, everybody, for my personal child as well as school stuff. I'm here to continue a conversation that I'd love to open up, do a presentation, or do whatever you need as a school committee. Because as a teacher, I'm finding that our philosophical idea of early childhood is shifting. Our numbers are high. In the past, we've seen great intervention by having small ratios of students to teachers, typically 1 to 4, 1 to 3. We have extreme needs. I feel like we're changing that philosophy a little bit, and currently we're a 1 to 6, 1 to 8 in the classrooms in preschool, and there's a lot of needs. And so I just want to talk about it and let you know that we are greatly concerned at the preschool level, and we are happy to come and talk to you and do a presentation. I have trends from years past to share with you, but I think long-term for your district, you know that early intervention is critical in the beginning, and front-loading those services is really the way we're going to stop having to have all that intervention later in life, and it really creates the potential for the students. So I'm not really sure where to go. I'm not looking for answers. I'm just expressing my concern, and I would like for you to give me guidance as to how to work on how to change that philosophy to back to what was super successful.
And the committees, what would you propose, anything? Would you like to have a meeting that brings this up, a workshop?
Well, either a workshop or a presentation, I think, to be brought up to speed on current
Agreed.
trends. I think we should.
What do you think?
Okay.
So can we set that up?
I will set it up. It's at this point, well, when we do the on the horizon, we can go over that. You'll see what we have planned for the next couple meetings, but certainly in probably the first November meeting.
Can I ask him a question?
On this lady's comment, I'd like to make a comment.
No, first, we have a committee member.
Kim, are you hoping to make some changes this year, or are you hoping to set the stage for coming years? Or
I think
both?
it's critical. It's going to impact this year, and use it to try to give projections for future.
Okay.
So either, but certainly the numbers are continuing to get greater and greater. And I do think there will be a need this year.
Then I would say as soon as we can get it on the schedule.
Okay.
Sooner the better.
Okay. Moving on to presentations and discussions of issues of interest to the committee.
If I may,
Yeah.
I do have something that I would like to share with the committee that's sort of a little bit out of order. But we have, you may recall that in years past, the superintendent is given a certificate of academic excellence to give out, and we usually do that in the first or second meeting in September. And the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents created this award to be given to high school students who have distinguished themselves in the pursuit of excellence. The criteria are their 3-year cumulative average, a rank in class, and personal selection by the superintendent. Superintendent has leeway among the top 5% for his or her personal selection. So based on the number of graduates that we have at Nantucket High School, we have one certificate of academic excellence that can be awarded at our high school. And I have asked a young lady, and if she would come forward, Jenna Grace Genthner, if you would come up, please.
Yes.
I'm just going to read this quickly. Jenna Grace Genthner, having duly qualified under the standards prescribed by the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents, is hereby awarded the Certificate of Academic Excellence, in witness whereof the seal of the association and the signature of the Superintendent of Schools are hereunto affixed. I've chosen Jenna for a number of reasons. She has an extremely high GPA, 4.6757 as we speak, and extremely high rank in class. And those are important prerequisites. But I also had some leeway to choose somebody who's made an impression upon me. And on a trip last year to New York, where we saw several plays with the accidentals and naturals, got to know Jenna a little bit, and I just think that she's a wonderful example of what this is all about for our schools. So.
Thank you very much.
And I did tell her she could stay, but if she wanted to go home and do homework after the first night, nobody would mind. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the summer school update.
So while Andrea Marr gets set up here, I'll just do some introductions. Summer school has continued to expand and evolve. So earlier this year, the curriculum directors, Jean Witt and myself, Michael Horton, director of STEM, along with Michelle Brady, director of special ed, and Kelly Cooney, the English language learner director, we came together and brainstormed how we were going to roll out summer school this year. So in the process, we posted a position, and for a few years now in a row, we were thrilled that Andrea applied for the position. So we hired Andrea as a summer school coordinator. So what I'd like to do is turn over the summary of this past summer to Andrea Marr. Andrea is a reading specialist support teacher at Nantucket Elementary School, and this must be your 6th or 7th year being the summer school coordinator
Yes.
for all programs.
Yes.
So it's quite comprehensive report, and then if there are additional questions or information needed, I'll be here to support Andrea as well as Jean, Michelle, and Kelly.
Thanks for having me again. So every year I run the numbers and I give you guys the number of students who attended. This year we had a total of 202 students who attended the program, the bulk of them at NES and NIS. That was one of our kind of exciting changes this year. We were able to use NES and NIS and spread it out, which is great for the maintenance. They're able to get into NES and clean up more of the building. They're so flexible with us, but we definitely sprawl between us and the community school. But they're always so great to us, and they support us and all of that fun stuff. At CPS and NHS, we had about 44 students. When I looked at it, I thought it was like our biggest year ever by tons, and I went back and I was like, I wonder. And it is by 2 students. Back in 2014, we had 200 students. And then our numbers kind of dwindled a little bit, 169, 168, 195, and then back up this year. So I thought that was kind of good, because I'm always wondering, are our numbers high, are they low? So this is kind of right where we wanted them. It gives us a good class size. It's actually like maybe kind of a little high, because our class sizes were a little higher this summer. But I felt like we had enough support for everybody. If you look at, we had 25 teachers, 6 specialists, was included, therapists. We had 2 specialized reading teachers this year, which was In addition, we had so many students who needed those services. So that was really great because that's like the meat of our program, students who need the extra support for reading. We had 15 teaching assistants supporting our students, and we were blessed with 3 volunteers this summer. We had 2 7th graders who were in need of something to do, really excited to help out. They came almost every day. It was incredible. One of them was like really disappointed to miss the last week or week and a half because he was going to El Salvador, somewhere out of the country. But really great to have them, and they were so engaged with the students, and like the students just looked up to them. So it was really, really nice to have them. And then I was the coordinator. We'll talk more about the Boost program, but they were at 22 students this year, around there. They had 3 teachers and a teaching assistant. So those are our numbers who attended. So this is something I was wondering, like, who are the kids who are at summer school? Now, if you'll notice, if you're a math person, the numbers don't add up because some students are ELL and special ed. So 65 of the students who were there were considered English learners, and 40% were considered under the special ed umbrella, and the 17% qualified for neither of those categories. So it's just kind of a quick look, and you can see where the breakdowns are there. Attendance rates, this was another question I have every year. I'm like, are students coming? Is it worth having this, this grand and this big? Like, are students showing up? And students are coming. If you look, 20% of students district-wide, they came 100% of the time. I thought that was pretty good. And then 51%, 80 to 95%, 20%, 50 to 75, and only 9% less than 50%. And some of that was like families we had a couple students who were living, like one parent was off island, another was on, so they were splitting their time. Some special situations like that. So that kind of contributed to their smaller attendance, or some kids were traveling. So things like that are all factored in. This year we ran the program for 5 weeks again. We did 4 days a week, 3 hours a day. And I just kind of included a lot of pictures just to kind of show you what was going on. A lot of hands-on activities going on. This was our kindergarten going to first grade group. They were building words, and you'll see a couple more pictures from that classroom and a lot more pictures as I go on. This is the breakdown. You can see we had a lot of students in kindergarten and first grade. We had 3 sections of each this year. And then it was kind of well-rounded for the other NES, NIS groups with 2 sections each. So we sometimes get cohorts of kids who just don't come. I remember one year there was like a group that through grades 1, 2, and 3, I think we only got like 13 of them to come. So our numbers are pretty healthy here. We actually have enough for 2 classes, which is pretty great. This is just a quick glance. I included in your packet so you could just kind of see what goes on during the academic day. The core of our program is the meeting in small groups, guided reading groups, teaching strategies, teaching reinforcement of skills. In addition to that, we support with technology, we support with centers and things like that, all under the ELA, English Language Arts umbrella. Writing, we focused our summer on narrative writing. That's a little changed from the past. We've usually done about 2 genres, but based on data and test scores and things like that, we decided to narrow our focus on the narrative genre. And math, we focused mostly on the Eureka math units in the early grades, and many grades focused on geometry. That seemed to be an area that our district needed to focus on. So Mike suggested that we do that. And you can see later some really great hands-on activities. Geometry is great for lending that. In addition to that, they did basic skills and things like that to support that necessity. Just a little more, okay, I already talked about these, some of the things they had to support their teaching. You can see those tiles again, the kids are building words. Oh, it's on the next slide. You can see small groups in action, lots of reading going on. The kids were always very enthusiastic to have books in their hands and talk about the books with, like whenever I went in the room, they were excited about that. We were fortunate to have a really great staff. We had many teachers from within our district who brought their knowledge with them, and also their supplies. You can see we had lots of great things for the students. These fifth graders are doing a postcard type, well, this is their postcard project. They did a postcard project, but this was part of their summer reading. They were reading the book, discussing it, and doing a little bit of their project in class, just as an extra support for them. They were really engaged in this, and later on I'll show you their postcard project. Was kind of cool. Student doing writing, some students excited about reading under that table. This was a morning meeting activity. There's a tall boy there, that's one of our volunteers. And you can see they're using the smart board to extend the learning. They're making some words there. Science was something new and exciting this year. The directors got together and they were like, it would be great to incorporate science. Really, Kelly was talking about how it would be really great for the English learners to have the experience of oral language in that, all the speaking and listening that can go on there. The first graders, they focused on light and shadows as their area of study. Grade 2, properties of matter. And grade 3, they did a lot with like coming up with a plan and then adjusting the plan accordingly. In addition, they did some measurements, several machines, and other things like that. Here are some of the science experiments in action. They did a cool experiment with a paper cup and a balloon, trying to fire the marshmallow, and then what could you do to make the marshmallow go further? So it was that whole scientific inquiry. This was the shadows. They had to predict what would make a shadow, and then they tested it out, or if it would make a shadow. You can see them doing a hands-on sort there. This is a science activity on the left. They're doing some sort of like inquiry-based thing, like what do we do as scientists with those cards. And this other activity was to do with measurement. It was like if you increase the height, well, the distance of the, I'm not sure what they're firing off there, but there was a string and something going down it. So the kids were excited to experiment with that and measure and do all that fun stuff. Just wanted to thank Gillian Myers. She brought the bookmobile to NES a few days, and the kids from NES and NIS were able to come out and get some books. She brings, if you're not familiar with it, she brings the bookmobile around the island to neighborhood students, or neighborhood children, and they can get as many books as they want, and they can keep them. So these kids were really excited to have it there, and they knew all about it, so they were thrilled to have those picks. Here are some students. You can see those are, they're building some words. We had Taylor Murphy's one of our teachers during the school year, and she was also there this summer, so she's bringing her knowledge to the summer program and reinforcing those skills. There's my friend Taylor, there's a small group, and Mrs. Domi doing a small reading group. Some more small group instructions, some writing. Another center activity, that boys making words, and we had the pleasure of having Miss Patricia in our classrooms this summer. She's working with small groups. Students just really connect with her and love chatting with her, and she was a great support for them. Some more activities going on. This is actually kind of a neat game. It's like you roll the dice. I hadn't seen it before. They roll the dice, and whichever number they roll, they have to say and write the word. So it's like gimmicky with the dice. The kids really liked it. And then they see which number wins. So there's a little bit of math probability in there. Barb Condon was one of our teachers. She was really excited. She normally works with 6th graders, and she got to work with 5th graders this summer, so she got to meet some of the students coming up. So she was excited to have that. This is that postcard project I was talking about. They did a project about if you could go anywhere in the world, like if you weren't here in the summer, what would you do? And they did a whole writing project around that. So the kids got really artistic with it and had a good experience. And that's their projects. I think it was about the best vacation they could have. So, very high interest, and they were working hard on it every time I went by, so. As I said, geometry is one of the focuses. Kevin Mahoney's a math specialist back in his district in Connecticut, and he got these donated from Bedtime Math, which is a company who, like, I know the book Bedtime Math, but this was, the company, I guess, will send you things, and they sent him like hundreds of glow sticks. And then styrofoam balls, so they were making three-dimensional shapes to reinforce and all that. So it was cool, and they turned off the lights, and then they figured out what bigger shapes they could make, or how many more, vertices and all that they could make if they added their pieces together. Smart board activities that were reinforcing the skills being taught. These are some math games that they were engaged in, some more hands-on math, geometry, making some more shapes. This is another hands-on math project with geometry. Some writing going on. Mrs. Davis's kids were like writing every time I went in. They were like writing machines, and they were so into it. So it was great to see all of our teachers that just drive their passion through the summer. It's really great to see them with different groups of kids. CPS and NHS programs, a little bit smaller. We had a few sections, grades 6 to 8. We mixed some of the students in multi-grade based on what they needed to be working on, their skill level, things like that. And they worked between a couple of different teachers. And we had a large population of L students who came, very excited to be there, very excited to learn. Brittany Beal recruited a lot of them. She was very excited to be there, and they were excited to see her. So this is one of our groups. They did a mock interview. They worked on resumes over the summer months, and then they created resumes, and this was what they came up with for successful job applicants. Need to be able to do these things. And at the end of the summer, they were interviewed by Michelle Brady. And
I wanted to hire them all.
should I remind them this is just a fake interview? I have no positions for anybody right now. But yeah, they were very excited about it. So, what was new with the program? Like I said before, we used NIS. We have science. And this year we added a standards-based report card for Title III and Title I programs. For the other programs, the extended school year program, we continue to use our narrative progress report because we're targeting goals that students need to be working on. So we kept that the way it was, and then we moved on to standards-based with these, and it really helped the teachers narrow their focus on a few standards. Next year, we're planning, as long as all goes well, we're planning to add a third bus. We had no buses originally, if you remember, and I think there was actually this table that said, we should really get some buses. So the bus drivers were just like, the islands, it's not funny as it sounds, it's too big. We have students who are trying to get on Wisconsin area, and then other students in Nantucket. So the routes are really long with the traffic and everything. And we had 2 full buses this year. So, and we share the bus with the Boost program. So it's like a happy sharing. And it's really great because then our older students support the Boost students who've never been on the bus before too. So they're models. So those are some of our changes. And the next presentation is actually about the Boost program, but I just wanted to give a shout out to the Harvey Foundation because they did their book donation again, and like the books they give are just so amazing, and the kids are so excited to have them. So that's the end of that. Do you have any questions for me?
Can I go first? Okay, great. Thank you, first of all, for a great presentation. Couple of questions. You talked about the standards-based report and their goals. Do the students start out at the beginning of the summer with goals that are set for them as individuals, and then that's what the report is based on?
Students who have IEPs, they're part of the special ed program, they have individualized education plans that have their goals in them
Yep.
for the whole school year. So during the summer months, they work on maintaining the progress they've made on those goals. So those students are working to continue chipping at those goals throughout the summer.
And what about the 17% of the kids that weren't special needs or ELL?
So they're working towards the standards, and they're standards from the grade that they just left, because most of the students need extra support.
Okay, so do you have information on those students ahead of time, so you know as individuals where they need it?
Yeah,
Okay.
we use, at the upper levels, like at CPS, we get their MAP data. That's like their big assessment that they use up there. So that helps the teachers drive instruction up there. At NES and NIS, the teachers all receive their Fountas of Pinnell benchmark levels, and their English language proficiency scores for EL students,
Yeah.
which are not at 17%.
Yeah.
So their reading levels come forward. And then a lot of teachers, because they're so excited their students are going to summer school, they give me some information that I pass on.
Great.
To help the student, the student really needs this, their reading looks good, but make sure you keep an eye on this. So that's kind of information we pass along and they work on.
Remind me how students enroll. I'm familiar with some of the process, but how do you outreach to students that might not necessarily be asked to attend?
So there are a bunch of ways to qualify. And then you get an invitation in the mail. Actually, we backpacked the invitations this year, hoping for a higher rate, because something funky about the mail on this island. Number of ways to qualify. You could have an IEP that says, hey, you should come to summer school, you need a longer school year. Another way is if you're reading below grade level, then we'll be like, you should really come, you would really benefit. Like a lot of the students that I work with during the school year, like I tell them how great this program is, you should really come. And, I work on the ground level and then talk to the parents on the side. And then this year we invited all students who are English learners. So anybody who fell under that umbrella got an invitation, just regardless of where they were on the spectrum. After the invitations are sent, we follow up with another invitation and a phone call. Actually, I think an email came first, but the phone call is like the next day. So we reach out to them 3 or 4 times, and we generally get in touch with probably 95% of the people and get an answer. And generally the answer when it's no is like, no, we're really excited about going to this great camp, or no, we're going off island. So the parents know that it's been suggested, it's been recommended, but a lot of times they can't make it work for their schedule, or they have other exciting plans for the summer.
And then, so the 4th grade that we saw, is that they were in 4th grade the past year, and they're going to be rising 5th grade?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it's
And
an
then-
extension of the current school year, so if you're a second grader, you were,
So you're reviewing what you've done in.
yeah, if
in
you're a
that
second grader in the
year.
program, you were a second grader last year.
And then, is there follow-up in September with next year's teachers with measurements and as far as reaching goals? Is there time for that? And
All the teachers complete progress reports, and they go into their cumulative folder, so all the teachers have access to that. But we've tried doing folders before, but it's just at the beginning of the school year, teachers are so eager to have their own information. They look at last year's information. They have so much information that we've actually stopped doing the folders. So I was like, how helpful is this? And they were like, we have this, this, and this, and we're going to get this, this, and this. So we don't pass forward much from summer school. So it goes home with a lot of the students, which is great because the parents were like, why aren't we getting anything?
Right.
And it was because we were holding it captive to pass on.
yeah,
And it seemed like it would be more beneficial to go home.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Zona?
I'm wondering, do you have a magic number, a cap
Of what?
of students? Sorry.
For the program?
Yeah.
Not for the program. Our there's like a informal way of inviting students that like if we want about 12 students in the class, we invite about 18
Okay.
and about 12 will come.
Okay.
So I kind of do it by grade level, by the number of sections like that we have budgeted for. So if we have 2 teachers, we usually can invite almost every student, but we rank order them based
Yeah.
on the
I was
teacher
wondering
data.
if you feel like you're able to reach everybody. But
Generally we do. This year there was like a handful of kids in a few different grades that we couldn't invite because we filled up really fast. We invited all the English learners that kind of brought our
it's a big
invite.
number.
Yeah.
Right.
But generally we reach
And do you ever have
people want.
repeat students that come to
We have
the
lots of
program?
repeat students.
You
Yep.
do? Yeah. I mean, it looks so much fun, so I can imagine that once they've experienced it, they're
Yeah.
eager to come back,
Yep.
especially the younger kids.
Yeah, exactly. The younger students are always very excited, and they're excited to see the familiar faces. Like I said, like even like with the older students, Brittany Beal was cheerleading for those students to come.
Right,
Like, and
right.
she got a lot of students to come. And you know, I try to get a lot of my students, and they're
Yeah.
like, you know, they're third graders by then. So now I'm going with the younger students, and I have more success. But
Well, I think your enthusiasm helps. Thank
Yeah.
you very, very much.
Steve?
Yeah, a couple of things, and without implying that any of the rest of this wasn't worth it, thanks for all the pictures. It really livens it up, it's great. How were the summer boost students selected?
Tracy's going to talk
Is
about
that something
that.
Tracy will talk
Yeah.
about?
Yep, that's her
Okay.
area of expertise.
Then I'll ask my last but most loaded question.
Okay.
Is 5 weeks enough?
I think so. It's 20 days. We used to do 6 weeks, but it was 18 days. So we've actually extended our summer school year by 2 days, which is necessary, I feel, because we've added more assessments to the program. So it kind of comes out a little bit, not like a wash completely, but our assessments definitely take time. And it's that whole gathering extra information. You know, as a former teacher, you want to get to know your students. Even though you have all the data in front of you, you really don't know until you sit with the student. So those 2 extra days get that. I think it's good because the students are looking forward to that time off. The teachers are looking forward to that time off, and they often have plans. We, like some of those attendance rates, we lose some kids because they're going away. And parents who have been sending their students for many years, they're waiting for the program to end. Other students they're like, this is when our vacation is, we're going. So I feel like if it was longer, our attendance rates wouldn't be as good. You know, there is the question, is it too big of a gap on the beginning or on the end mostly? So it's 1 week shorter for that regression piece. But I think it's enough.
If I may, I'll jump in there. For the neediest of children, is it enough? Probably not. They could always use more, but you do have to balance that with, you know, the fact that they need a break too. And if they are going to school 5 days a week for 6 weeks, are they prepared to come back in September and be fresh at all? I mean, kids still need to be kids, and we have to balance that at all times, letting them be children and enjoy some time. And I do think, you know, going from 6 weeks of 3 or
4 days a week.
4 days a
three,
week.
3 before.
Yeah.
That's right.
That moving to 4 days and giving people that 3-day weekend, it's helped getting staff as well. Because you also have to think about staff burnout. These are the same people. I worry especially about special educators. You know, that is, it's a gift that we have, people who are willing to put that time, but it's very intensive work. And, you know, I worry about burning them out sometimes. So.
All set? I have a quick question. What about the ones, you said you fill up fast, so you have to cut the invites off. What about those that didn't get invited? What happens there? What's the next step for them? Do you guys get pushback and feedback from that?
Once in a while, we get a call from a parent that's like, you know, it's really hoping my child will get into the summer program. By that point, usually somebody has called and said, hey, I can't make it, and we'll make room for them. The numbers of students who really should be there are invited. Like, we do a selection, basically, that's most needy to least needy. So the students that don't make the cut, they're on the less in need, and so. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
Tracy Roberts is going to talk about the summer boost.
Hi, Tracy. It's your first presentation.
Yes.
Pocket full of ketchup, Andy. Still in the containers, but I'm glad. I'm very glad.
My support. That's good. So, yeah, that's good. So I am going to share about the community schools' July and August programs, and I'm not going to talk specifically about our summer programs. Some of the pieces that I highlight will be part of our year-round programming, but they're the programs that happen in July and August. Driver's ed happened this summer, so I'm not going to report on that, but that continued as usual. We ran a fitness class within adult ed, and we offered 15 tests in our testing center at 56 Center. A lot of those tests were for teachers who were taking their MTELs to get ready for the school year. So that was exciting.
That's great.
And a big increase for us in that space. So I will start with Summer Boost. It's the perfect segue after Andrea's presentation. The Summer Boost program is part of the summer school, and it is offered to 4- and 5-year-old children on island who have not yet had formal preschooling, and they're scheduled to attend kindergarten in the fall. So we find them through kindergarten registration. A lot of the time, their families will bring them, and this school system is alerted to the fact that they have perhaps been at home, they've been with their parents, and so they're invited to join the Summer Boost program. Before that, there's the possibility that in years prior, they've had an older sibling who's registered for kindergarten, and through that process, we've realized that there are siblings at home who are potentially not attending programming. We can get them into our Ready, Set, School program, which runs during the school year, and then they will go from Ready, Set, School into Summer Boost. So it's not a full-day program like a licensed preschool might be, but is run by our early childhood team a couple days a week for a couple hours, and that's in collaboration with their parents. So parents are coming, they're getting some education along with the students, and they're getting an experience together. And at one point, then they do separate from each other. The parents get some education, and the students get a classroom experience with a teacher. So the Summer Boost program is funded, or was funded this summer, by the Community Foundation and the Net Board. And the Community Foundation was very generous this year when we applied for our grant. They realized that we were applying for funds for this upcoming summer, and they realized that that sets us behind. So they generously funded us for this summer and for next summer. So that's why when the money came in and was approved by school committee, there were 2 separate donations, so that going into next summer, we can kind of plan ahead and be ready for that and not nervous if we have funding to support these students. So as Andrea shared, our program ran 5 weeks, 8:30 to 11:30, and we had 19 Boost students, and this summer we had 3 peers in the group. So those 3 peers were students who had preschool experience, and they were able to kind of be models for the students who hadn't. They're working on skills like sitting for circle time and walking in a line and taking turns doing an activity, and some of those peers have gone through that in their preschooling, and so they can kind of model that without the teachers having to say this is what it looks like. They practice skills like raising hands and becoming familiar with the school. For many of these children, this is their first time that they've come to the elementary school or to a formal school at all. So it is really nice to be able to kind of explore the school and become familiar before they even come for kindergarten. It's not as scary for them. They learn the Pledge of Allegiance so that when they get into their kindergarten classroom, they're really confident with that.
and they work on writing their name. Many of them don't know how to form letters, so it's a huge experience for them. We are supported by the public school in terms of the busing. That is a big piece for us. So the fact that the summer boost students get to ride with the summer school students is, we're so grateful for it because it's necessary for a lot of these children to be transported to the program. When looking at numbers, I was able to pull back to fiscal year 12, looking at the bottom number being the number of students that are enrolled in summer boost, and the light green number reflecting the number of students that are having preschool experience, and the number on the top being the kindergarten enrollment. So looking at fiscal year 19, we only had 19 students who came into our summer burst program without preschool experience. 8 additional students attended Head Start this year. So that was huge for us as a district to be able to have the Head Start program running this year. And then 86 students came into this year's kindergarten class with preschool experience. At first I was a little bit concerned looking at the numbers, thinking, we had 26 and 35, one year we had 47, and do those numbers really tell us anything? Are they random? So I was able to do a little bit of digging and find that only 2 children went into this year's kindergarten class without preschool experience. So I feel like we're really doing our job. Those 2 children, their families were contacted. It's not as if we missed them. So we did our work, and some of the choices were family choices. But I think 2 is a pretty good number when looking at.
Pretty awesome.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So here's some photos. Susan Richards is one of our classroom teachers, and she's a full-time staff member and our outreach coordinator at the community school. And she runs our Ready, Set, School program, so she lives for this. At the end of the Summer Boost program, the teachers do provide a narrative for the kindergarten teachers, so they know a little bit more about these students, as some of the other preschool teachers provide going into the kindergarten year. And when I was looking at the numbers, I started to do some thinking about what we're doing as an organization to try to connect with families more and get them in earlier. I think it's nice to catch them at kindergarten registration, but it would be great if we could get them beforehand. It would be really nice if when the siblings are coming in, we know, there's a 1-year-old at home, and then we get them into our other programs. So we're starting in partnership with Kelly's department this year, a Spanish-speaking playgroup with a team member from the community school and with Jocelyn. So that will be exciting to try to support families and help them engage with their kids in the ECC. And we applied for a grant through Healthy Nantucket this year to grow our Welcome Baby, Welcome Family program. So we hope to have 50 home visits this year with families who are either new to the island or are just having children for the first time, to try to bring them out and get them engaged in the community and connected so that they know all the different kinds of resources that are here for them. That way, perhaps it's directing them to former preschools, or perhaps it's just connecting with different opportunities on the island, and maybe then they're accessing Ready, Set, School and then Summer Boost. I spoke a little bit about Ready, Set, School already, and we have many collaborations with other organizations that we continue to grow, and that will only help us with our outreach. Susan is hoping to spend more time in the ECC this year, connecting with families and helping share resources with from different nonprofits with the families. It's really nice to have that space in the elementary school. I think families see it as a safe place, and it's convenient for many. Now with public transport, they can get there, and I think that's really important. we're looking to grow our Early Childhood Advisory Council. We're going to change that meeting to happen during the school day, and it's going to happen in the elementary school in hopes that more administrators can come and we can collaborate with early intervention and try to really make these connections so that we're getting families and students in and identified earlier, and getting them the resources that they might need. If they don't know that these opportunities are out there, we can help inform them and to kind of come together to make plans to do this. And we as a team have been using more surveys, even putting it out on Facebook in the form of Google to just get more information about what families want and what people really are in need of. So, moving on to camp. So we also ran camp this summer, and this might be a little bit hard to read. There's a lot going on. So we ran 7 full weeks of camp, our ACKVENTURE day camp, that takes kids all over the island, experiencing all different opportunities, often by bus, but many times, like with the ACK traveling group, they're walking, and they're all around the island. They were sailing, the collaborations that happened in that program specifically were pretty amazing. But when looking at these numbers, this week one starts in July, goes all the way through August, and then our bridge weeks are the last 2 weeks before school starts, bridging that end of summer with the school year. It's tricky as facilities is getting ready to prepare the buildings for the school year. We moved for Bridge Week this year back to the ECC and out of CPS, and we think things went well. So looking at the numbers, you might see that there's a decrease between fiscal year 18 and 19 enrollments. There was some changes in our camp licensure, not ours, but in general regulations, in terms of ratios for different age groups. And so I feel that it really benefited us. We were able to take a step back and really reevaluate our program and make sure that we were compliant and making sure that students or campers were really getting the attention based on the ratios that were happening. And I think it made it a little bit more fluid and types of opportunities the kids could access with just a few less campers. We were at full enrollment with most of our groups every week. So. We also offered an ACK farming and gardening camp in collaboration with Sustainable at the Sustainable Garden next to central office. And this is a program that continues to evolve as each year we kind of see it differently, and people are learning more about Sustainable and what they're doing at the garden. So that was great to see that happen, and we have some programs rolling out this fall actually with Sustainable. They're going to do a very similar program that will run Tuesdays, Wednesdays, or Thursdays after school as a childcare option and enrichment program after school. We offered sports camps this summer. We have basketball, gymnastics, football, and field hockey. And Blair's pretty excited. He was running the sports camps and is quite proud of the growth that the sports camps have had. This summer we did not run a soccer camp. Housing became really difficult for the soccer group that we were collaborating with, and so we had 107 less soccer campers, but our enrollment was just different 5 campers. So there's a lot of growth within the sports camps. The basketball camp was huge. This summer, there was a lot of growth within basketball specifically, which is seen by that last column in red. Week 4, let's see if think it was week 4 here, looking at there was, sometimes it comes down to staffing and having the right staff in the right places. So sometimes we'll opt to run a different program if we have shared staff so that we can run multiple programs. We're going to jump to the pool. This summer at the pool, we ran 7 weeks of Learn to Swim. And Learn to Swim is a 30-minute swim lesson that runs Monday through Friday. So families might sign up for 1 week, they might sign up for 7 weeks. What's interesting about this data is that I will give credit to Jim, he tracks everything. And looking at trends, the 3 columns on the right reflect the number of classes that run, and the 3 columns on the left show the enrollment. So if you look closely, you will see that over time, by tracking this data, Jim was able to offer fewer classes but equal enrollment, which also was reflected in the numbers and the revenue at the pool. Better spending of resources in terms of staffing. Also at the pool, we have memberships, and there's lots of different choices for memberships that people can choose from. And day passes definitely increased this summer. Also this summer, we ran hydro fitness and aqua size classes, and the summer swim team took place as well. So the swim team runs year round, as do these other classes. These are just the July and August numbers for those programs. And this summer, we were also at the Jetties tennis courts. And I might skip ahead and show you what they looked like before they were resurfaced. And then after they were resurfaced.
Nice.
Which I think brought in a lot of foot traffic to the tennis courts. And there was a lot of increased play there. Lisa Rance, who is at the tennis courts day and night almost. She lives and breathes tennis, and it's been great to have her there, as she's so passionate about it, working to really expand the programs there and support the players in the community. Looking specifically at youth tennis, there's been significant growth in the last 3 years, 138 students to be exact, and then that's also reflected in the revenue this year with the resurfaced courts and the advertising. $57,000. So looking at last year, there was not a tennis professional at the courts. When people were calling to get tennis lessons, they had to refer them to somebody else. So to have a tennis pro there this summer has been really important to us. And on to adult ed. I do not have any specifics in terms of adult ed programming to report on this summer. We hired a new adult ed coordinator. She started July 2nd. So when she came on, we thought it would be wise to give her the summer to really focus on fall programming and wrap her head around what was on the horizon. And so she was able to work diligently to gather data put out some questionnaires and get some information from the community in terms of within the programming that we've offered in the past, what are people interested in taking? And that gave us email, contact information, so that when our brochure came out, you can take one, they're up at the door. She could reach out then and say, our registration is open, please go online and check out our brochure. So looking at courses within adult education, the different components, they're broken up here. We have seen and heard the need for a Spanish instructor. So we are working hard to try to meet that need for the community. We're looking to offer Spanish literacy, Spanish for Spanish speakers, so that they can become literate in their own language, and then Spanish for English speakers. And here are some other courses that we're offering. And this is some collaborators that we worked with this year. Before I finish, I do have to give a big thank you to my team. When I started this job in April, I was very new, and they did not skip a beat. They planned for the summer months, and I followed their lead, and they were the experts, so I really couldn't have done this without them. Any questions? Thank you.
Zona?
Good things.
Couple of things. Susan, when you were talking about Susan reading and doing the outreach, is she still going to WIC visits and at the sites and doing the reading, story reading? Then?
She goes around the island, yeah. She
Yeah.
sets up different places in different doctor's offices,
Yeah.
and yeah, she
That's
does.
great.
Yes.
That's a great way to reach
Yes,
new families.
definitely. And she's actually very connected at Nisha, so she's now bringing her dog with her to a lot of, and she's reading, and her dog is there, and it's really
I've
fun
seen
for
that.
kids.
Yeah, that's great. The other question I had, and I wrote down, but you kind of touched upon it, is the Head Start. Do you think that the Head Start numbers had a impact on the lower numbers of kids attending summer boost?
Yeah, so
they
two
qualify for summer
children,
boost?
we did check with the Head Start staff, and 2 children from Head Start attended Summer Boost. They were identified as students who would benefit from
Yeah.
that extra 5 weeks in the summertime.
Great. And then just lastly, did the town pay for the resurfacing of the tennis court?
Yes.
Extra.
We did not.
Good job.
I don't have any questions, but I have to say this is really exciting and refreshing. I was particularly impressed with the pool memberships and the increase in daily passes, because I think, that is very impressive, seeing as it seems as if everyone is building their own in-ground pool these days to keep people excited to coming to the school and using the pool. I think you need to get creative and, offer a good pool service experience, and I'm really impressed. Thank you. I think this is very exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve?
Yeah, one question and one comment. The Spanish playgroup,
Yes.
does it run throughout the year, or was it just in the summer?
Most of our grant-funded programs run school year, so it would
Cool.
run September to June. But it's the
Cool.
first time that we're doing it, so ultimately, we would just have to see how it goes.
Right. No, but that's good.
Yeah, nothing
And
is
it's
set in stone, which
continuous.
is great with our programs.
And my comment is that it's just unbelievable how much you do. I can't think of a better word. It's awesome, which is overused. But when I saw your brochure before the summer of everything that was going on, and now we see it here having taken place, it is just unbelievable. Thank you.
Thanks.
Henry? Have you thought about a medical interpreter program? Because,
Have we?
well, no, I end up sitting on the phone in the emergency room or in the operating room. And I think that would be very useful.
What we say within adult ed programming is that we encourage people to come to the community school, and this is part of what we're trying to share out within the community, is that we can try to build it and make it happen. We just need to know that there's a need. So if people come to us and say, we're at this organization and we need these trainings, Kate can do her research and see if we can bring it here. So that people aren't having to travel off island to go to some of these trainings. We're looking at now within the hospitality industry, what do restaurants need, what do hotels need, what does the workforce need for their trainings, and we can see if it can be brought here. So it's something that we can, definitely look into. With the interpreter training.
Yeah, I think you should speak to that because that's sort of the forerunner of, I think, what Tim is asking about.
Right, so, I mean, that was kind of put in place before I started, but it was my understanding that the district was really in need of interpreters so I think definitely we can look into it and see if it's something for within the hospital.
And the hospital ran a couple of courses for medical interpreters.
It gave us a blend of the two for that reason.
Yeah, that's not something that I've seen, but I can.
Your schools, but it's some medical, so we tried to keep it open so it would be an entry into that.
Tracy, do you want me to go through what the interpreters are trained on?
Yeah.
I'm the adult ed coordinator. So they're going to be going through training to help with courtrooms, to help with the school system, to help with medical work. They touch a little bit on everything. And then if those individuals want to continue to dive into a specific area, there's additional training that can happen for those purposes as well.
No, it's just interesting, for example, Portuguese speakers, we're always on the phone.
We have 3 Portuguese interpreters signed up for the program and 15 Spanish interpreters currently.
How about Eastern European?
We had 2
Pick
people
one.
who have yet to submit their applications, but we did reach out to them and still waiting to hear back. But we're trying to target as much of the area as we can.
Okay, so now I'm going to go old school. What about French? Everybody's had high school French, but
We have a current French teacher who works with our ESOL program. She is not currently signed up to do the interpreter training class, but that might be something worth checking into her and see if she'd be interested.
It also costs more for each
Yeah,
language that
that's
you
what I was
add
gonna
on.
say.
And the initial reason for opening up the class was for the school system. And so we don't generally have requests for Eastern European translators. We have them for Portuguese and Spanish.
Right, I think it was specified for Spanish and
Identified
Portuguese.
specifically. So if we added another language, we would have to pay for another instructor to come, and it would increase the overall cost of the class.
But if there is a need,
But
we
there
can
are-
do a spring session.
But I
for
could
those
see where there are
languages.
positions, you're not generating them to look into the void. There are positions available at the hospital. Thank you.
Yeah, kidding.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy. You're welcome. Great first presentation.
District draft goals, Mike?
Well, I sent to you the goals that the committee approved last September, and I have a paper copy here for committee members. I don't think that we need to necessarily go through last year's goals at this point, but I do need to hear your feedback. I've heard from one member so far, and so it's important that you give me some feedback as to which strategies you'd like to continue, which goals you'd like to continue. For instance, a transparent budget process has been something that the committee has asked to continue each year, and it may be that you also want to specify student achievement, and quite frankly, the MCAS results have not been, they are embargoed at this point, and until that comes out, that may frame some of your thinking on goal 1, if it were to be student achievement, which it always has been. And then the last goal for last year was the district will seek to improve the working and learning cultures in each building and district. So that may be something that you'd like to continue or build upon. And if there is a new goal that any member I hope that you will give me some feedback, and then I'll bring this draft as we build it back to the next several meetings, and then by the end of October, we should have it ready to go.
Any comments on that? Remember?
Just a question, when I was looking through this earlier, just at what point do we tease out, I mean, you've got your indicators of success and the strategies, but do we get to dig deeper into how we're going to actually get to the indicators of success, or is that something that you work on as
No,
a team?
absolutely. I think any input, these are district goals created by the school committee. So anything that you give us, we take as an administrative team. And I think I said at the last meeting, the district goals really become the superintendent's
Right.
goals. And there's a trickle-down effect that the administrators understand, that as the district goals are established, they help frame each building's goals. So it's an important document, and I think as much feedback as you can provide, and again, this takes 2 or 3 times bringing it
When
back
would
and
you
forth.
anticipate bringing up some of those?
I will bring it again at the next 2 meetings anyway.
Okay.
Mike, Mr. Chairman, a couple of MCAS questions, and then I do have comments on a couple of these. You've said that the results are embargoed, I understand that. But have you received them?
We
Has
have
administration received them?
We have received preliminary, but not the official results, which they have said late September. That is what we have received from the Department of Education. I feel strongly that when we get those, the first people who need to see them are teachers. Before they become public documents and before they come to the school committee, I think we owe that to our teachers to see those results and start to process. Then, of course, there is a process of analyses that the administrators will do as well as the teachers. I think last year we ended up having 2 reports to the school committee. The first was a preliminary report sharing some of the data, but it really, the more effective meeting with the school committee, as I recall, is when we did a workshop with the principals to share with you their analyses of their results. And they do that through their work, but their work with their teachers as well.
So the teachers don't see the preliminary, they have to wait for the actual.
They have to wait for it to be, the embargo to be lifted.
And the
That's correct.
actual is the one that you thought we were going to get this week,
Well,
but now it's the end of the month.
each year, we are hopeful that they will come sooner than in the past. And each year, we are reminded that they will come when they are ready to send them to us. And so that's, I think I can speak for the administrative team. It's frustrating. The turnaround on MCAS is slow. Some of that turnaround is understandably slow because the scoring of some of those open response pieces can't be done by computer. And there's a lot more to the MCAS result than the multiple choice questions. So it all goes in, and so we're really at the mercy of the department, and I know they are trying very hard to get these out as quickly as they can. But to be fair to them, they get castigated when they send them out with errors.
Right.
And that's happened before, and they don't want to be in that situation. So the best I can say is that we will release them as soon as we are allowed. But quite frankly, and I'll say this respectfully, it's more important to get them in the hands of the teachers than the hands of the school committee. And I hope you understand how I mean that.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
That's okay. I was gonna.
Through Tim.
Tim, you decide.
You had when you give the presentation on MCAS, and part of this is just because I was involved with a student this past year who graduated, but graduated with a certificate of attendance, not with completion, because they were waiting on their fourth, I think, MCAS report. And it was 4 days. They got their final report where the student passed MCAS, the math portion, 4 days before the student was prepared to leave Ireland to go to college. And I understand that we have other students, and I know the number's small, but personally, I don't care if it's just one student. I think I'd love to know when you do the MCAS presentation, if you could include what we do to inquire about tuition, extra support, what's in place for students so that if they don't pass, let's say, their biology in 9th grade, how early are interventions put in place, and how many times are we willing to have them test in a subject?
Sure.
Just how deep do we go into that data, and what are we doing to support them? Because I feel like for students who go 12 years through school, it's a real shame that they're not coming out with a full high school diploma.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but and as you implied, there is a lot going on. This isn't a failure on one assessment, and kids are given numerous assessments with a pretty liberal dose of tutoring in between. The student that you speak of, and we won't use any names, you know, we were pretty confident in looking at the raw data that, and I remember Mike and I were talking about this student with John Bucky. We were pretty confident that she was going to pass the math. But until we get that confirmation from the department, and we do push back, and we did appeal, I think, 6 to 8 decisions this year. Michael's showing me 9. And we were successful with some of those appeals, and we were unsuccessful with a few as well. There are things that we learn from unsuccessful appeals, and I can have John and Mike speak to this when we present, but things like how critical it is that their attendance is good, because that can make or break a successful appeal for some students. So we owe it to those students to let them know early enough so that can matter, that can make a difference for them.
And I understand from Mike, and we've had lots of conversations, and John and I have too, that a portfolio is a possibility when you, so I'm just wondering what is our policy if we have a student that maybe doesn't pass the first or second time? When do the teachers jump in or step in to say, let's stop building this portfolio in case, I mean, without necessarily saying to them, because you may not pass next time, but what's the internal piece that we're doing that to already support that student?
We'll have John and
yeah, I'd like
Mike
to have that
present.
included, just because I think it's an
Sure.
important one. Thank you.
May I ask a question? So, the district draft goals, is that something you guys would be sorry?
No, okay.
Would you be willing, and do you think it's worthwhile to have a workshop to discuss this? I think it's pretty important, and it would be nice to be able to, and we have a new board member, I think it would be nice to sort of work through.
And
So-
then get input, is that also what you're
Exactly,
thinking? Yeah.
exactly.
Sure. When when we get into on the horizon, we have a workshop coming up at the second October meeting.
Okay.
That I've invited Glenn Kuchar at following up. You could incorporate it into that meeting. You could have Glenn do his piece first, and then make that a second item for that meeting if you would like.
I think it's a good idea that we can all sit together and
Yeah, I think
really
that's a good idea too, Jen.
work collectively towards the district goals.
No, I think it's a good idea. Steve?
Reason that I asked about the availability of MCAS scores is that I fully support goal 1, no question about academic success and strategies. But I'm feeling that we ought to be specifying math in some way. We've talked for years about our math scores. If there hasn't been improvement, significant improvement, when we see these results, I would like, I don't know in what form yet, to specifically reference math as a part of the first goal.
So I think that's
That's
the
in the
reason we have a
workshop.
workshop.
Yeah.
We can work together.
And my other comment is about input for budget. I'm not going to name names or point fingers. Let me just say, from what I've heard, some schools are doing a very good job of getting input and discussing budget with their staff, and some, shall we say, not so good. So I would like to encourage, even before these goals are set, because I'm assuming that's going to remain a part of this, all of our administrators to get input from all of their staff and discuss it. You know, don't just present them with the final decisions, but discuss with them what they think needs to happen. Now, they may not get their way. I'm not suggesting that this is a democracy, at least at that end. But I think more input is needed at some levels.
Well, that's really the school council should be involved in that.
School council should definitely be in the same situation, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Continue. You have in front of you a draft calendar and draft budget directives. The calendar was put together with Martin and some input. We do not have, sort of highlighted some of the dates that we do not have, which is pretty typical. I would expect to hear from Libby pretty soon about what they're going to do with annual town meeting. And then once that's determined, a lot of our benchmarks are backed up from that. But we will, as we have in the past, begin the budget process in October and work through November and December with actual reports to the school committee in December, usually the first and third Tuesdays is when we have those reports by the various committees and continue to build that. I do not have any dates yet on ad hoc budget meetings. And as I said, I don't have a date yet for town meeting, but we do have a date for the capital program committee review, which will be September. So that is moving forward, and Diane and I have already met and have prepared our capital list.
Mike, a question on
Yep.
the town side. Reading this as is, it would appear that the first time the town gives us a projection isn't until December. Is that correct?
That's usually, I get some inkling in late November, but I don't get any hard figures until they have revenue projections, Martin, which are typically December. Martin has worked on the town side as well as now working on the school side, so you may want to.
I think
Entertain.
developing the budget down there is sort of like saying you'd want to see laws of sausage made. So there are magic numbers that come out and get changed.
It just feels to me like it's pretty late in our process to be finding out what the town thinks that we ought to be getting. Is any of that discussed in the ad hoc budget groups?
It can come up sometimes, sure. Yep,
Getting an inkling?
yep.
Getting an inkling and what we ask for and what we get. The town has generally been very generous.
Yeah.
So on very few occasions, it's gotten a little more exciting. When they cut us 50% on Monday, and then it was 25% on Tuesday, and by Friday, they were giving us money. So it's something that you approach with a certain degree of caution about getting too hot and too cold about it, honestly.
Yeah, to be fair, they are looking for numbers from the state as well. So, it's not that they are purposefully withholding information. They're waiting, and they're reluctant, just as the DZ is with MCAS. Town's a little reluctant to send out the wrong numbers early.
Makes sense.
So, but earlier is always better from our perspective.
Jim, can I just ask a question? Just looking at the presented draft calendar, it looks like there's a lot of presentations on the 18th. There's 6 presentations. I'm just wondering if that's realistic. And I don't know that you can really add them on the 4th because you've already got the athletics, 4, possibly 5 because you're including capital. But I'm just thinking for attention purposes and also just being able to really listen clearly, 6 seemed a lot in one night.
Well, it is. It's a long night.
Yeah.
That is historically one of our longer meetings. When you have 4 schools, I did move things around. I actually moved athletics from that second meeting to the first meeting. In the past, athletics was
Don't we normally have community schools separate from the schools? I
and
think?
central. Well, the community school budget is not going to be the time consumer in those presentations. It will be the 4 schools for that. Athletics, facilities, technology, central. That's a pretty good. It's a pretty good bite of the apple in that first meeting as well. But, I mean, I could move the community school up to the 4th. I don't know that it's going to lighten the load as much as you might think, but I could do that.
I kind of like them together because it
With the
puts you in that
schools.
mode.
Well, we consider it the 5th school,
Yeah.
so that's sort of
Right.
why I put it there.
I'm lost. Where are you getting these dates from?
The
On the
4th and
presented
the
draft.
18th.
Oh, of December. I thought she
Yes.
said November.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why does the high school appear twice?
Does it?
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Oh, it shouldn't.
Oh, well, that cuts it down by 1. You're in there twice, John.
He has a lot to ask for.
He does have a lot.
I'll fix
Okay,
that.
well then, yeah, I wasn't realizing that. I was just counting the numbers, so actually that's just reduced.
I
It's
looked
still
at
a
the-
long night.
So, yeah, it is. It's, yeah.
It's a long
But-
night, but it's
It's
a
half a
whole.
dozen one, 6 of the other. So, yeah, that's okay.
Or 5 of them.
5
And-
is fine.
And you should recognize again that those are draft budget directives. So
Yep.
if you have suggestions there, I would like to get those back to you for the first or the second September meeting so that I can get those out, and that sort of directs the principal's work and the department chair's work.
So should we contact you about that, or is that something to discuss here?
No, if you have suggestions,
Well, I have a couple of concerns.
send them to me.
Yeah, okay.
Or Tim.
Well,
Yep,
You also, Mike?
sure.
Committee discussion and votes to be taken. A vote to approve the memorandum of understanding with Cape Cod Child Development.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm thrilled to see that. Congratulations.
Thank you. We're delighted that Head Start is going to continue this year. That was a little touch and go. They had some reorganization there. We'd hoped to expand it, but given that reorganization, we're just happy to maintain what we had. There were 18 to 20 students in that program last year, and as Tracy explained, that helped reduce our summer boost numbers because those children had an entire year of programming, and it was just remarkable.
Yeah.
So thank you
Happy to see it then.
thank you for passing that.
A vote to authorize transfer from the Nantucket agency accounts to NHS student activity account for the class of 2018 for the balance transfer request to their class savings account at Cape Cod 5 in the amount of $16,165.88.
So moved.
So, oh,
Second.
come on, that's not fair.
Thank you,
Second.
Steve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I just ask a quick question? So the class president is reminded that they need to do this, I'm sure, right?
Yes, they are.
Okay, all right. So-
In following our policy.
Right, right. 'Cause I just remember there were, years of
Yep.
classes that,
I make it a note to put an bug in their ear too.
oh, good, that's good. Okay.
And actually, they were generous in they were giving some money out to a number of different organizations. So
That's great.
that's
It's nice to hear.
yeah, that's wonderful to see. I think did you have them here?
I can speak to that if you'd like.
Oh,
So I was a class advisor last year for the seniors, and we would like to donate most of it back to the school between the library scholarship and then the incoming freshmen to give them some money to
oh my
Wow.
goodness, it's so generous.
That's wonderful.
Wow.
That's wonderful.
It's great.
Thank
That's
you.
fantastic. Thank you.
A vote to approve policy BEDG. Does the policy committee want to illuminate
Yes.
some of that?
Yes.
I will do this and I can
Thank
let
you.
Jen and Zona
Okay.
speak to this. Steve, I gave you one.
One for Henry.
Henry.
So you can see the changes that were made are more reflective of our actual reporting out of minutes that we're currently reporting on. Steve, did you have any questions or
No, I think
concerns after seeing the
removing
changes?
That thing at the bottom was
Right.
a major item.
Absolutely.
And you've consolidated everything now into item one. And that's virtually straight from the regulation. So
Right.
it looks good.
Good. Any other questions or?
No? Thank you
We
for
have a
doing the work.
motion to approve?
Yep,
Yeah,
moved.
so moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
A vote to approve the August 21st, 2018 meeting minutes.
I will move to approve that, but just so I don't get in trouble later with Mr. Cohen, note that the minutes state that I thought uniforms could be a viable option. Not would be, but were worthy of discussion. So I haven't committed myself, but it's worth looking into.
The motion's been made to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Transfers and invoices, we apparently have none.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Martin, were there transfers and invoices?
There's one sheet in there.
I think there was one.
Yeah, I saw
For the
it
payroll?
so much.
Just payroll.
Well, here it is. Yeah, we
Payroll.
have it.
Yeah.
We
Just
just made a
payroll.
motion on this.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Superintendent's report.
Okay, first day of school today. So it's always one of my favorite days of the year. A lot of work goes in by administration, teachers, custodians, TAs, you name it. Everybody, it's all hands on deck to make that first day a good day. And as I walked around the the district, I think everywhere I went, I had a smile on my face. There were good things happening. My day began with greeting kids. We had administrators all over the buildings greeting kids as they came to school. And then I went into the auditorium, and I don't know, Mrs. Proch, if I'm stealing your thunder, and if I am, I won't dive into it. But
No, go ahead.
they began their day. I wish you all could have been there, because it kicked off with a band of high school faculty playing, a saxophone, bass, the drums,
Tambourines.
you name it. And they did an amazing rendition of Aretha Franklin, which is a nice tribute to Aretha Franklin, but also the song Respect, which is something that I touched on in my opening remarks with faculty. And it was heartwarming, and I think very well received by the kids and the staff. And then it quickly went into a different way of introducing new staff, including most of the staff's high school pictures and advice to their high school selves. And it just was a home run and a hoot as people looked at, let's see, Mrs. Hickson and Mr. Gervin back a few years, and there were a few others, but it really was a special opening, I thought. And then, the middle school went into the auditorium. All of this while working around Election Day, which wasn't a chore, but it was an added layer for our faculty and students to work around, and my hat's off. And then, of course, I went around to NES and NIS, and just was brilliant. It just was what you hoped a first day would be, a focus on the children. Our numbers are up from last year, about 35 students more at this point. The elementary school is about the same number as last year, and then intermediate school pretty darn close. The middle school was a little bit higher, quite a bit higher, and then the high school. So we opened up with 1,679 students. That's an all-time high in this district, and each year for the last, 7 years, 8 years, we have increased, or this is the 9th year that it's increased, and we find a way to make it work. My hat's off.
May I ask that number? How realistic is it, say, a month from now?
I think I've always cautioned the school committee not to get in love with the September, the first day enrollment. It changes significantly between now and October 1st, and that's why the state uses October 1st, because they know that there will be some changes. Some of these students, might not be here next week, and we already know that there are 5 more students enrolling this week. So this number it just gives you a comparison to the last September, but you really have to wait for that October number. The state knows what it's doing by waiting and letting it sift through a little bit there. So, but, job security we have because the numbers continue to increase. But a great opening day, and it's just special. It never gets old, I think, for any of us.
May I ask about the election day part of that process? You said you were not critical of it, but it was somewhat in the way.
Yep.
I had heard that there is, maybe now was, some movement toward moving the elections out to, is it the VFW? Do we know any more about that?
There's been discussion of that when the Commonwealth determined that they were going to have the primary on the opening day of school. There were a lot of eyebrows raised across the Commonwealth. I mean, we're not unusual in opening the Tuesday after Labor Day, and in my opinion, it was a poor choice, but I also realized that they had limited choices because they have a window that they have to have the primary within. We were in touch with the town, and I want everybody to understand that this is not the town's doing. They get their instructions from the Commonwealth on this, so a town doesn't have any flexibility to say, no, we're going to choose another day. The town was concerned, as we were, and we just said, we will make this work, because that's what we do. They could not get permission from the Attorney General's office for a change of venue on that short notice, but there have been discussions about changing it and going to the VFW. That's been discussed over the years. There are people who think that that's a wonderful idea because there's more parking out there. And there are people who say that they would miss that because our students don't see the democratic process in action the way that they do here. And by moving it out of town, the electioneering that takes place on Surfside wouldn't have the same effect perhaps out on Milestone. But that will go back and forth. We have always said to the town that as long as you choose to have it here, we will make it work. When you choose not to, that is your decision, and it has an upside. Maybe an incident or a decision like this on the first day of school will hurry that decision to move out to the VFW. That may be.
And who would decide that? The select people?
The town will make that decision, and whether that's the select board or whether that is at a has to go through town meeting process, I'm not sure.
But the Secretary of State would be involved in that also.
They would.
Because I think that there's accessibility issues out there. I think it's a wonderful venue to do it, but it's not that accessible.
Is that right?
Well, one of the biggest challenges, as I understand it, has been the fact that they serve alcoholic beverages out there. And so how that plays in, I'm not sure, but that could be a factor, and you may be right. ADA, although I think it's an pretty accessible building.
But to get out there.
Yeah.
Just, I feel like I'm always saying the safety and security of our students and staff is foremost in my priority list. I think it's
Yeah.
great that the school does have voting here. I think it's great for the students to see it, and it's easily accessible by the community, but we really need to take into account the safety and security aspect. And in today's day and age, you can't overlook that.
No, but you have a police car parked outside, and you have a policeman sitting inside.
But
what
we
about
allow
the back doors?
Right, we allow all the doors to be open so people can come in multiple ways. If they're parking in the back, I believe the CPS or the back door has been open in the past. So it is something that concerns me.
It's an extra security risk. There's no denying that. And, things have changed in the last 20 years, and we've made changes with the changes in society, so maybe this is one.
Through the chair, I don't know what weight we would have if we, together as a school committee, made a recommendation to the board of the select board to ask them for their consideration to change venues. But I agree. I think that we're putting so much work and effort and trust in families. We're asking the families to trust and the students. And it's kind of ironic, the first day of school, every door is open in the
Right.
high school. And so I just
And
think
everybody's
that,
walking in.
I just think it's something that we should continue that conversation, and maybe we can have a conversation together and see if we can agree to make a recommendation to the select board.
But we also have had professional development days, and so.
We have.
Where we have just,
Well, we've chosen to use the first Tuesday in November as a professional development day,
Right.
even when you're in those off years. And I think that that's been a pretty good compromise in terms of the safety and security of
I would
of
agree if we were
students.
consistent with that.
Yeah.
I would be okay with that, but
Yeah.
Is election day in April the same?
well, that's a town election, that could be.
No, I
that's-
understand.
No, but
Right.
you're right.
If
No.
that's a
It-
school day,
right.
Yep.
Right.
then we have those same
Absolutely.
safety
You do.
concerns as we had today.
Exactly.
Yep. So anyway, at some point, I think that would be a good thing to put on the agenda for a conversation for us.
Agreed.
Yes.
Well,
Second.
if, okay, so invite the town officials for that? Is that what you're saying, for a discussion, or are you taking a straw vote to advise the town?
I was thinking that we would have the discussion here at this meeting, and then we would, depending on the outcome, write a letter to the select board requesting consideration of change of venue.
Okay,
And if we schedule that and let Libby and whoever else know if they choose to attend and comment,
Right.
that'd be fine, but
Yep.
if they don't, that'd be fine.
okay. I'll maybe schedule that for November,
Okay.
knowing that that first Tuesday isn't a problem for us anyway.
Right. That's a good idea.
So if that works for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And then as for on the horizon, we have a lot on our September 18th schedule. We have a discussion of, well, I'll put the goals, the district goals again over there. Student conduct, meeting with school resource officers, the technology use discussion, draft calendar for 2019, 2020, and strategic plan update. So you have quite a bit scheduled for there. And then on October 2nd, you'll have that official enrollment update. We also typically have an ESL update, and that's when I would hope that we would make a preliminary report on MCAS results. Again, that is dependent on the state releasing.
Like,
The embargo on that.
CPEDG come off.
Yes, that can come off.
But we're
Done
adding,
that.
but we're adding
We're adding
one or
credit.
two.
There's another one.
Yeah.
Policies, you mean?
Yeah.
Policy, yeah.
Yeah.
For next.
And then you had asked to meet with the Veritas staff. I have that tentatively scheduled for October 2nd, although that has some flexibility. If you wanted to push that back, we'll just let Henry know.
Yeah, I think we should push that back to October 16th, but also,
Well,
you don't think it would be wise to move MCAS to October 16th? Just,
We talked about doing the.
So
workshop.
October 16th is when you're going to have Glenn Kuchar come.
And we talked about the
And-
workshop for the district goals.
Right. So if you put Glenn and district goals on the 16th, that is a meeting, a workshop would typically start at 4:30.
right.
You could have Glenn first, then let him go so that he gets back to the mainland, and then you can discuss district goals. So I wouldn't move Veritas to a workshop.
Okay.
I'd rather put them at the first November meeting, I think.
So, okay, let me make sure I understand. We're not having two October regular school committee meetings.
Right. Your second regular meeting is a workshop with Glenn Kuchar and now district goals. Now, you can have 3 meetings if you so
I don't see Why
desire.
we won't? A workshop to me is a little different.
I'm not opposed to having another workshop meeting and keeping the 16th as a regular open, but
I mean, since I think Glenn's already scheduled, so we kind of have to keep that date.
Right. But you could have a meeting on the 23rd
How does everyone feel about that?
of October, should you desire.
Fine with me.
Yep.
And
So the
that's where we-
23rd would
23rd,
be
I
the-
may not be there.
would that be
Supposed to be
the
at a meeting
workshop on the
in
district
Boston.
goals? Sorry.
I think we can keep the district goals
With Glenn.
with
Okay.
Glenn.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's just move everything else, like Veritas, we can move there. And I'm MCAS, I just think October 2nd is kind of quick for you guys to get it, to share it with your staff, to interpret it. No, yes. What do you guys think?
Well, we would
Okay.
be waiting till the 23rd then?
Well, I mean, it's not like we need to act
Right.
on it in like
There's nothing that
the
we
next
need
day.
to do as a board to.
It's just a discussion to have how we did and,
Right.
and to incorporate it and many other things. I just wonder if realistically October 2nd is too soon. If you don't expect to get them until the end of September.
Right.
You said you thought it would be fair to share it with the teachers and that sort of thing first. That gives you a little time.
Right.
Well, if you decided to do that, then I think you could do, you could have a presentation on preschool. I would say that, which you had invited tonight, I would say that that presentation should be made in conjunction with staff and administration. They should work together on that presentation. So Kim and Michelle and Kim together should make that presentation.
The concern I have is that I at least wanted to have an idea on the math MCAS results before we finish the district goals. And we're now looking at not getting MCAS results until after we do a workshop on the goals.
Yeah, but in the workshop, we're not making decisions. Can't make decisions.
Do we have to await a formal date like October 23rd to have MCAS results presented to us
Right.
somehow?
I don't think so.
So you could, if you want, I see what you're saying, Steve. You could have preliminary MCAS results provided to you at that October 16th. That will still give principals an opportunity to share with their faculty before.
Yep.
But you won't have the analyses of that, but you will have preliminary data, if that would help.
Better than not.
On the
I
16th.
mean, I assume that people in administration who deal with these things all the time will have a pretty good handle from the preliminary results, so that when they see the final results, unless there's some major difference, they'll at least be able to give us a basic idea.
Yeah, but I don't know that the administration will be coming to your workshop. That workshop is for you with Glenn, and then, and you with me. I do think it's a good idea to stay with that plan of the 16th with Glenn, district goals. I can bring preliminary MCAS for that meeting.
And not for nothing, October 16th does not have to be the last time we discuss.
Yeah, understood.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fine. I think that could do it. And then, so for the second, I will put in preschool
For the 2nd of October.
of October.
And you already moved the Veritas to when?
To
23rd.
October 23rd.
I mean, that's the least pressing issue on there.
Yeah. So I will be at every regular meeting because I have to, and then and because I enjoy
because you want to.
and because I
Wait a minute.
enjoy all of your company, of course.
Thanks,
Yes.
Henry.
Thank you.
So I'm totally flexible on that. Most of the other staff doesn't play fall or winter sports, and will
Okay.
also be pretty flexible.
Yeah, this is the first time we've done it. I think it's wonderful to add that.
And
piece.
that will hopefully be after our relocation into the library, whereas the second might be
Yep.
on the edge. We might not know whether or not we're in there yet.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Good idea.
So we're moving Veritas to the 16th?
23rd.
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 Okay.
I'll send a New Horizon out.
May I just ask a question? And first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for keeping Aaron Fuller and the panorama on the parking lot for over a year and a half. It's off tonight.
I know, I was like, it's
So,
not on.
but it's a good opportunity for me to ask maybe permission to, through Tim to Mike, if you would be all right if I reached out to each principal to just talk about what I guess has been just sitting with me for a long time, and just seeing what we can do in our schools or what we are doing as far as student identification and identifying kids in the district who have no connection to an adult in the building. Basically, I talked about this over a year ago, and then I'm drawing a blank on the name of the book that I read over the last couple of months. Not coming to me, but they talked about doing the
Sociograms.
the little index cards, and every name of every student goes out, and everybody has the opportunity to write something that they know about the student, not what class they're in, but something that they know about them outside of the school. I just think it's an important connection piece of us being able to look and identify students who may not have connections in our district, that we think everybody's connected, everyone's got a friend, everyone knows everybody. That's not the case. And I think doing it earlier on in the season is better to do it than doing it at the end of the year, because we're losing a lot of kids. So I'd love, if you wouldn't mind, to give me permission to reach out to
Certainly.
the principals and just see.
I would suggest that they broaden that just a little bit and talk to you about social emotional learning, because it's really a much broader umbrella than just do you know every child. I was reading an article recently that maybe speaks to what you're talking about, or maybe it doesn't, it just speaks to me. And they said what we need in schools is not metal detectors, we need mental detectors. And that's kind of an interesting thing as we worry about safety and security, and we spend thousands and millions on safety and security. Is that doing the same thing as providing staff resources on mental illness? And we've talked about that and have added in that area as well. But just
I mean, I think today's assembly that I attended at the high school, and I said to Cassie Thompson, our resource officer, when I go to events like that, I look at the audience and I'm looking to see what kids are sitting on their own. That tells us a lot. And I know today's the first day of school, but there were a lot of kids that were in single seats. So I'm just trying to just have us think about connecting kids and making sure that all students are connected to somebody in the school. That's all.
On that note, I just want to add, more guidance counselors and more meetings with kids. Every kid should have some adult. To me, it's a counselor, because it's somebody that doesn't know them, can't judge them, it's not their teacher, that they can talk about what's your goal in life. And once a year is not enough.
Yep, I agree.
So, that was a great segue, thank you.
Well, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
I will move to adjourn after a shout out, if I may.
You're only
I don't
allowed
know that
one.
he's entertained.
A shout out, and it's not actually to our
You're
school,
fired, Tim.
although to some extent it is Mr. Kozort, because he sent us the video. To all of the town employees and volunteers who put on the Public Safety Day, One of the things that struck me about that video was how many kids were there. It was just great to see. A worthwhile thing. If you're watching, thank you.
And I have a motion to adjourn.
I already did that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.